And here's my offspring. This is Noah Bilal. I love him. I love him. And my reason for choosing Larry Hamm is because the late leader over the largest Muslim community in America, Imam Wafdi Muhammad, the prayers and peace be on his soul, may be elevated to a high status in paradise. He said he wished he had 10 men, 10 imams like Larry Hamm. That's what Imam Muhammad said. Told his imams that. So I need 10 men like Larry. So we love Larry. And the nature of our New Africa Day here in Paterson is keeping in line with what the leader said. He said, call the Pan-Africanists brothers and sisters. Call the black nationalist brothers and sisters, and let us come together and build and bring our neighborhoods back into healthy communities again. That's what the call was.
Black power. Black power. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. No justice. No justice. No justice. If there ain't gonna be no justice. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. I'm very glad to be here. Can y'all hear me? First of all, I want to thank a brother that I've known for many years, the one that actually called me and invited me here today, who's been doing great work in this community for a long time and not really receiving the recognition that is due to him. Please give a warm round of applause to our brother Bilal Hakeem. Give him a warm round of applause. Where's brother Bilal at? There he is. I see him. I love that brother. Let me just take a few things off the leaflet, and I'm not going to talk too long today because you've already had a number of great speakers. But there were some things on this leaflet that I thought I should repeat. First of all, today's event, which is New Africa Family Day. Everybody say that. New Africa Family Day. And it's sponsored by the Alumbe Brath Power Coalition, Buds, and Masjid Salahuddin. Give the sponsoring organizations, give them a round of applause, all the sponsoring organizations today. And the theme for today, as Brother Bilal said, is we must save ourselves and do for self. Everybody say that. We must save ourselves and do for self. Do for who? Do for who? Do for who? And also on the leaflet here it says, what is New Africa? The concept is recognition of the great legacy that we come from as a people. And after being subjugated for 3 centuries of brutal chattel slavery, robbed of the knowledge of who we were, we have emerged as a new people. That's the unifying concept for today. And I knew I was in the right place when I rolled up the street here in Park, when I saw red, black, and green all on the pole over there, and when I came up, Martin Luther King right here, red, black, and green. How many people know the origins of red, black, and green? This is important. The origins of red, black, and green go to who? Marcus Garvey. Everybody say that. Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was the president of the United Negro Improvement Association. And that, in the 1920s, was the largest organization of black people in the world. Believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe when we have cell phones and instant communication and video, instant video chat and all these other things, we can't get 100 people together. But our people, before telephones were being used properly, had an organization with 1 million people in it. And that organization was called the United Negro Improvement Association. Everybody say that. United Negro Improvement Association. That was the organization of Marcus Garvey. And they had a conference, a convention. Guess where it was? In what place? Give that brother a hand. He knows his black history. It was in New York at Madison Square Garden on August the 13th, 1920. That was like 98 years ago. August 13th, 1920. They passed what they called a Declaration of Negro Rights. And as part of that declaration, they declared at that convention, this is the origin of it. When you see the red, black, and green, I'm telling you the origin of it. They passed a resolution at that convention that said red, black, and green would be the official colors of African people all over the world. Can you imagine the audacity of that? Some black people got together at Madison Square Garden, had a meeting, and passed a resolution for all black people in the world. Now you know that's some bold thinking. They said that red, black, and green would be the colors of African people. And that the red stands for what? The blood of all African people. The black is for what? The people and the land. And the green is for what? Prosperity and our youth. Those are our colors, red, black, and green. And at that convention, August 13th, 1920, they adopted the red, black, and green flag as the official flag of the United Negro Improvement Association. That is the story. That is the origin. So when you go to the Black Parade, which you had in June, you have another one next year. When you see vendors, because I rode through here yesterday. I'm so messed up, I thought the program was yesterday. I was here yesterday, but I rode past the Masonic Hall, and the brother was out there selling red, black, and green flags yesterday. Whenever you have your children with you, now you can tell them the story of the red, black, and green flag adopted in 1920, August 13th, 1920, in the United Negro Improvement Association Convention under the leadership of Marcus Garvey. This is the origin of all. This is why we get together and call ourselves black, why we call ourselves African, why we call ourselves New African, because before Marcus Garvey, there was not this strong connection to Africa, even though we are an African people. Everybody that's black in the Western Hemisphere, in this half of the world, are African people and the descendant of African people. You know, the Nation of Islam said in the 60s that the black man was the original man. That's true. Africa is the home of humanity. Africa is the home of civilization. Africa is our homeland, and we should be proud of our African homeland. We should be proud of our African ancestry, of our African people. We should be proud of ourselves, brothers and sisters. And it's unfortunate that today, in the 21st century, here we are, what is this, 2018? We in the 21st century. And if you stand on a corner in Paterson in the black community, if you riding on a bus, if you be in a club on a Friday or a Saturday night, you'll hear people talking about nigger this and nigger that. In the 21st century, here we are. We are 50 years after the Black Power movement, 50 years after the Black Cultural movement, And we still get fights started in our community by calling each other black. We still suffer from self-hate, and all these organizations that promote African heritage, we need to make it our business to eradicate self-hate in our community. To eradicate self-hate in our community. Our children need to, and let me tell you something, this thing about self-hate, this is not just some street philosophy. This is not just some street science, some guessing and some theorizing. How many know of Dr. Nathan Hare? How many of you have heard of Dr. Nathan Hare? Dr. Nathan Hare, a black nationalist, doctor of political science, wrote a book. He and his wife, they both have doctorate degrees. They wrote a book in the 1960s called The Black Self-Concept. And in that book, they explored scientifically the impact of self-hate on the academic achievement of our children. You know that story with Dr. Kenneth Clark in his book, what was Dark Ghetto, where they give the black children the black doll and the white doll, and tell me which doll is the pretty doll. And invariably, even now, into the 21st century, black children are still picking the white doll. Because even if in our own homes, we don't tell our children to hate themselves, they get that message in 1,000 different ways in society. They get that message on television. They get that message on the radio. They get that message on the movies. And you know where else they get that message? In school. Our children are being taught to hate themselves when our children should be the proudest children walking around here on the street. Because you can't talk about civilization. You can't talk about science. You can't talk about engineering. You can't talk about architecture. You can't talk about medicine. You can't talk about geography unless you talk about black people, because we are the ones that created those scientists. And we're not telling our children that enough. And you know what is so strange, it's paradoxical, because 12 years ago, in the state legislature of New Jersey, a law was passed. Anybody know what law I'm talking about? 12 years ago, the state legislature of New Jersey passed a law called the Amistad Act. How many of you know about Amistad? Amistad was the name of a slave ship. They made a movie about it. Didn't you see the movie about Amistad? That's the movie, that's the story where the slaves on the slave ship overpowered their captors and told that captain, take us back to Africa. But because the brothers didn't know navigation, the crew took them to Boston. But when they got to Boston, they in fact ended up getting their freedom and they went back home to Africa. Well, there was an act called the Amistad Act passed in the early 2000s that said what? It said, listen, it said that black study, that we're not just supposed to have black studies courses. That in addition to black studies courses, we're supposed to have black studies taught in every subject in elementary and secondary schools. How many people knew this already? That this is the law. This isn't my feeling or my opinion. The proposers of the law was Assemblyman Bill Payne, who was in the legislature at that time, and his nephew, who was also an assemblyman, Craig Stanley, and it was passed. There are 600 school districts in the state of New Jersey. According to the Amistad law, every school, see that school over there? Every school in the state, every public school is supposed to put together an Amistad curriculum.
Guess how many school districts have actually done this out of 600? 10. That means 590, and don't tell me they all white schools, because they're not. 590 school districts have not implemented the Amistad law. So I'm here today to put a challenge to the black people, to the black community here in Paterson. I challenge you. School begins when? In 2 weeks, right? School begins in about 2 weeks. I challenge the activists, the educators, the leaders, the concerned citizens in this black community to go to each school in Paterson and ask the principal, where is your Amistad curriculum? Where is your Amistad curriculum? Because this, what's the theme today? Do for self. If you think that they're going to implement this without being pushed, then you obviously don't know anything about America. Because these people don't want us to know our history. They don't want us to know about ancient African civilization. They don't want us to know about our history in this country. They don't want us to know about the current situation. They don't want us to know. They want to keep us dumb and ignorant. But I don't know about you. I'm not going to let my children go through that school without learning their history and their culture, and you shouldn't either. I went to my daughter's, what they call it? Open house? Brother, is that what they call it? Open house? When you go, they have open schoolhouse night, and the parents go to talk to the, right, back to school night. Open house. So I go to my daughter's school, right? And everybody's happy. All the parents came. It was a good night. It was a wonderful night. And I'm sitting in my daughter's classroom, and I was in the social studies teacher classroom. And the social studies teacher was so proud. He was white, all these black parents in the classroom, and he was so proud because he was telling the black parents in my daughter's school that he was going to teach black history. And he said, in this unit, we're going to teach this unit, and we're going to teach that unit. We're going to teach about Mali, the ancient kingdom of Mali. We're going to teach about Songhai. We're going to teach about Great Zimbabwe. We're going to teach about Great Ghana. He was so proud, and we were happy too. And then he said, and that will be our ancient black studies curriculum. And then he said, after we finish with that, then we're going to teach about Egypt. But the last time I looked at a map, Egypt is in Africa. Egypt is in Africa. And I had to raise my hand. I said, excuse me, sir. Egypt is in Africa. Egyptian civilization is, in fact, African civilization. But this is the psycho that they try to put on us, that they've been trying to put on us for the last 75 years. They show you a movie about Anthony and Cleopatra. And they show you Cleopatra, an Egyptian queen, and who is it? Elizabeth Taylor. They make a movie about Hannibal. And who's Hannibal? Victor Mature, a white man. Cleopatra, a white woman. They teach us our history backwards instead of the truth. That's why we had to fight for black studies, brothers and sisters. So we need to go in these schools. Another thing we need to do, and I'm going to shut up and sit down, is that we have to do for self. We can't wait for somebody to teach our children about our history. We have to teach our children our history ourselves. Now they got vendors out here, and I'm sure the vendors got some black children's books. We got to go to black bookstores and black vendors and buy and patronize and get those books for our children. You know, if you out here preaching black power and black culture and you don't have no black books in your house for your children to read, you got a credibility gap. If you got children in that house, you should have black. Look, I told when my first daughter was born, I had to tell all my relatives, And don't misinterpret this. I said, don't send no white dolls to this house. I said, you send my daughter a white doll, that white doll is gonna come back and you're going to get your money back. Black children need to have black dolls because part of our bondage is in fact our worship of the people who oppress us. We worship the people who oppress us. And you see what they've done for this country and done for the world. Our children should have black dolls. And don't give me a Barbie doll dipped in brown paint and tell me that's a black doll. I want a black doll with thick black lips, a broad black nose. I want a black doll that looks like black people. And that's what we should be. And there are vendors who are trying to sell these products and we won't buy them. And we need to patronize our vendors. We got y'all have a black bookstore here in Paterson? You need somebody, that's a business that somebody needs to do for self. Somebody start a black bookstore business here in Paterson. We got a few in Newark, one I'm aware of, Source of Knowledge, on Broad Street. Everybody needs it. When this school year starts, everybody that got kids in the house, grandkids, kids that live next door, go to the black bookstore and buy black children's books for our children so that they can see themselves. Let me tell you, I'm old enough. I'm 64 years old. I'll be 65 in December. Yes, I'm old enough to remember Little Black Sambo being on my bookshelf in the house. How many remember Little Black Sambo? And Little Black Sambo was one of those stories that they took, and you looked at Little, and you didn't want to look like that because it was a caricature of how we look, making us want to hate ourselves. We shouldn't hate ourselves, we should love ourselves. We are a great people. Despite all of these difficulties, I know somebody gonna jump in my face and start talking about the black on black crime and all of the, yes, those are problems, but I'm telling you, we are a great people. And the testimony to our strength is that we are still here today after they tried to wipe us out. Slavery should have, it should have wiped us out. We should be like the Native American. You should search high and low to find a black man. They should have a coin that have a black person on it because ain't no more black people left. But we survived that. We survived slavery. We survived Jim Crow. And I'm gonna tell you what else, we gonna survive Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we gonna survive that chump. And this is another challenge I put to the people here in Paterson. Because I could talk about a lot of things all day long and never really talk about what's important. And if you don't think defeating Donald Trump and his whole crew, not just his crew in the White House, but his crew in Congress, is not important, then you really don't understand politics. Politics controls our lives. When you're born, you get what? A birth certificate. When you die, you get what? A death certificate. Every aspect of your life, from birth to death, is controlled by politics. And anybody, and there's a tendency in our own community that we have to struggle against. And I understand this tendency because at one time I felt this way too. I felt like you can't beat City Hall. I ain't gonna waste my time voting. Voting don't do nothing for us. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this is a tendency that we have to fight. Because of that tendency, that's one of several reasons why Trump is in power now. If black people had voted in 16 the way we voted in 8 and in 12 for Obama, neither Trump nor Chris Christie would have been in office. But we went to sleep and we didn't come out. And I want to tell you something. Politics is not about liking people. It's not about love. It's not about friendship. Politics is about business. It's about business. And we treat it like it's about friendship when it's really about business. We ain't got to love some of these people that are in office. But whether we like them or not, if they about our interests, we got to put them in, or if they not about our interests, we got to take them out. And maybe we need to take a few out just to teach the lesson, because they think that we can't take them out. But I hope that in Paterson, all the groups that co-sponsored this action today, this event today, will engage in massive voter registration from now until the cutoff date, from now until 2020. Because I'm gonna tell you something, I don't think they're gonna impeach Trump. Why do I say that? Because to impeach Trump, they need 67 votes in the Senate. Even if the Democrats get a majority in the Senate, they're not gonna get 67. So in all likelihood, some people are gonna be convicted. Some people are gonna go to jail. But the president has, this immunity. So if they don't impeach Trump, if he doesn't resign, then we got to vote them out in 2020. And let me tell you why this is so important. This is important because Trump is not just a Trump. A lot of people are like, Trump is a clown, Trump is a buffoon, but I'm gonna tell you something. Trump represents the spearhead of fascism in America. Fascism, not just racism, fascism. Trump wants to be a dictator as much as Hitler was a dictator. And I'm gonna tell you, you can tell where he comes from. He got 2 big endorsements during the election. Who are the 2 big endorsements from? The first endorsement was from the Ku Klux Klan. You ever heard of a president in your lifetime being openly endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan? Where do you think that slogan, "Make America Great Again"? That was a slogan that the Klan marched with in Washington, D.C. in the 1930s. That's where that slogan comes from. You know what the second big endorsement was? The Fraternal Order of Police. The Ku Klux Klan and the Fraternal Order of Police endorsed Trump. And the Ku Klux Klan endorsed Trump, and what does Trump do? Appoint racists and fascists to his cabinet. And then what does he do to pay back Fraternal Order Police? He appoints unrepentant segregationist Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. A man that Dr. Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta Scott King, wrote to every senator and said, whatever you do, don't ever make this man a judge. This was before Trump, before Attorney General. And what does Sessions do? The first thing he does is cancel all these, what do they call them, consent decrees, where the Justice Department is going to go in and straighten out these cops that are killing our people in the street like dogs. See, I know this is boring. I know that it's putting you to sleep. But brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, this is how politics works. This is how these people control us. And this is why we got to rise up. It is time for black people in America to unify and reunify like we did during the 60s. We need that black unity like we had during the 60s. When we walk down the street, people we didn't know, we call brother and we call sister. We need that unity. All these groups that are fighting each other, we need to try to find a way to bury the hatchet and unify these organizations so that we can have a strong community. And we need to stop the violence. I just went to a funeral just last week, just last Saturday. A teacher at the STEM Academy in East Orange was sitting in the car with his son in East Orange on 16th Street. Somebody came along and fired into the car and killed 45-year-old Kofi Owens. Shot his son, critically wounded his son. This was a teacher that was a model teacher, loved by the community, and he was shot dead by somebody that probably didn't even know him. We have to put down these guns and put down the knives. But you know, I could stand here and try to make a moral argument for why we should be good to each other. And there is a moral dimension to this. But the other thing we got to understand, this violence in our community is not happening by accident. We don't have no gun manufacturing plants in our community. These guns are being shipped into our communities. They coming up 95 from down south. They coming up 78 from Pennsylvania, and they being sold on the street. The drug, these gangs are shooting at each other. One of the reasons they're beefing over turf. But the drugs that they're fighting over, we don't have no poppy fields in our community. We don't have no drug manufacturer. All of this stuff is coming from outside of our community. And we need to start standing up and demanding that the government stop the flow of illegal guns and drugs into our community. I knew Alombe Brath, Bilal. I knew Alombe. You know what Alombe told me? Alombe told me one day, he said, Adimu, that's my African name, Adimu. He said, Adimu, if we could just stop the flow of guns and drugs, that would cut the crime rate in half. And that's what we have to do. But see, the government is part of the problem. The government is putting together policies that are, it's not an accident that if they wanted to stop it, they can stop it. But they don't want to stop it. They want us to shoot and to kill each other and to end up filling up the jails. In 1966, there were 100,000 black men in jail. In 2018, 1.2 million black men in jail. In federal jail, that's just federal jail. In the state, 70% of the prison population is black and Latino. So we got to try to do something to calm down this violence in our community, but from a policy perspective, we got to jump on these elected officials and tell them they got to stop the flow of drugs and guns into our communities. So brothers and sisters, I'm going to just leave you with that. I hope that everybody in here is a member of an organization. And lastly, because I see my brother sitting here and he told me to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about, we need black economic empowerment in our community. We need black economic empowerment. We need to support black businesses. We need to start black businesses. We need to demand that state and county government start giving contracts to black businesses. Let me tell you something, I'm from Essex County. You know what the percentage of county contracts go to black businesses is? 0.001%. And this is from a study. This is not, I know you thought I made that number up. I didn't make that number up. We elect all these black freeholders, right? The freeholder board. That's who run the county. We got black people on the freeholder board. I challenge the people in this park today to get the freeholder board members in a meeting and ask them how many county contracts are going to black businesses and what businesses are they going to. This is how you keep people accountable. See, we elect people, they come and make a speech, we all clap, they go home, and they got it for 4 years, right? You got to demand accountability. The city of Paterson, how many black businesses are they doing business with? The county, the state, and so on and so forth. So I just want to end with those things. Education, the Amistad Act, the election, voter registration, economic empowerment, supporting black businesses, social development. Let's stop the violence in our community. Let's support groups like, what's the name of your group, brother? Street Keepers and the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition and all these anti-violence groups. We got to support them. They're actually out in the street trying to stop the violence. And lastly, I invite you, if you're not already a member, to join the People's Organization for Progress. That's the organization I represent. We're a grassroots organization. We fight for racial, social, economic justice and peace. And one of the issues we're working on is police brutality. And that's a whole nother lecture, and I'm not gonna belabor the point. I've used up most of my time already, but our people are being shot down in the street like dogs. I don't know if it's 2018 or 1918. You know how many black people get killed? You know the police kill over 1,000 people every year? Do you know that the sister read a poem? Y'all probably didn't catch her line in the poem. She said every 28 hours, the police kill a black person in America. Every 28 hours. And it's every year. It's like a machine. Over 1,000 people every year. 3,000 people since Michael Brown was killed. I marched with y'all a couple of years ago at the street where the courthouse is, where the sheriff's office is. There was police brutality here in Paterson. We got to stop this murdering of our people. But the only way it's going to stop is if we make them stop. So brothers and sisters, thank you very much. My last idea is next time we have an event, have some children come in here and recite the words of Marcus Garvey. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. Power to the people. Thank you very much.
Yeah, give it up for Larry Hamm again.